Yo guys, it's me merslungus back at it again, making straight slop, and today we're going to be looking at the Elementalist and the Snowballer tower in TDS. Well, let's start with the worst tower, and that is the Snowballer. Base cost is 300, so it's pretty cheap to place down. It deals 4 damage with a fire rate of 3 seconds. It also applies the chill debuff to enemies, giving this tower a whopping 1.33 DPS. Level 1 costs 150 bucks and decreases the fire rate to 2.5 seconds, and increases the amount of chill percentage that can be applied to an enemy, and its DPS is now 1.6. But that doesn't really matter if I'm gonna be real with you, because it's just not worth it. Level 2 costs $650 dues and increases the total damage to 8, and the range gets increased by 2, making it 14. Max chill slowness gets a 10% increase, and its DPS has been increased to 3.2. Level 3 is where it gets a little interesting, because it reduces the fire rate to 2 seconds, increases the range to 18, increases the damage to 15, and its projectile has been changed into an explosive, dealing AoE damage and also applying chill to every enemy that gets hit in that explosion radius. And because it shoots explosives, it can now ignore defense and LAD. When an enemy reaches max chillness, they freeze for about 2 seconds. Its DPS is now 7.5, and if you were to add 8 splash damage for every extra enemy it hits, then that would be like about 55 DPS, which honestly for its price really isn't all that awful, but you'd probably be better off sticking with Demo Man. Anyway, let's get to the overall just better tower of this event, and that is the Elementalist. The Elementalist is quite a special tower, as it has 2 types of ways it can attack. You can either use the element of fire or the element of frost. In my opinion, frost is better. The Elementalist costs 2k to place down and shoots a burst of 3, dealing 3 damage each. Fire rate is 0.2 with a cooldown of 0.6. Its range is 12, giving this a DPS of 7.5. Level 1 costs 1.5k and increases the damage by 2, increases the range by 3, and adds another bullet to the burst size. The fire path gains 3 burn damage with a burn time of 3, and the frost path gains 2.5% slowdown per shot, making it do 7.5% per shot, giving this a DPS of 14.28. Level 2 costs 4k and adds 2 abilities, 1 for each path. Damage gets increased by 5, range gets increased by 2, and I'm just gonna pop this up on the screen for you to read, because that's a lot of things I have to like name and calculate. So I'm just gonna get to the main DPS thing now. So the main DPS is now 28.57. The Heatwave DPS is 250, the Ice Turret DPS is about like 21.83. Level 3 costs 8k and increases the damage to 2, adds another bullet to the burst size and reduces the burst cooldown to 0.5. This is for the 2 paths again. The main DPS is now 40, Heatwave DPS is 400, and the Ice Turret DPS is now 55.86. Level 4 costs a whopping 15k, increasing the damage by 3, increasing the burst size by 2, reducing the fire rate to 0.13, and decreasing the burst cooldown to 0.4. I'm just gonna put this back up on screen so you can, read it if you want. Main DPS is now 78.41, the Heatwave DPS is now 600, and the Ice Turret DPS is now 97.4. With all of the boring stuff out of the way, I'm gonna give my opinion on the tower. It's a pretty good debuffing tower, like, there is no reason to ever use any other freezing towers over this one, as its DPS, if you micro it at least, is like actually really good. It can cover groups of enemies with its fire path, but it can also take care of half-tier enemies with its frost path. But don't mistake this tower for a DPS tower, because it's not. As soon as a boss spawns that has more than 20k health, you're pretty much dead. But that's only if you're relying on this tower. But if you ever need a good, reliable support tower, not DPS, then this is definitely gonna be your go-to. Also, here's the obligatory elite mode win. Okay, bye-bye!
Before I go, they buffed Elementalist. Fax Paradoxum, very cool, very swag.